Welcome to another episode of the Corporate Happiness Show. I am your host, Jacqueline Pirtle. You can find me at FreakyHealer.com. I'm a thought leader for mindfulness and happiness, and I just love sharing with conscious individuals, leaders, and businesses how to live more energetic and how to do business more energetic, which includes happiness at work, because it's very, very dear to me. And in these times where things are a little bit more intense and constantly changing, it's really important to align with the values, which happiness is a big value. My guest today, every guest is super special, yet I feel like I teamed up with a really, really energetic being. Her name is Jennifer. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jennifer.
Oh, it's such my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Your energy is infectious, and so I'm so excited for our time together today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited too. It took me a couple tries to start, but hey, I've been on vacation and then coming back and getting my mind back into things. So we met actually through the focus groups that I hold a lot of times on Fridays, and they're all research groups on happiness and mindfulness at work and whatnot. And it's just amazing the wisdom, and when these groups are meeting, what comes out of it. We also are fellow podcasters. I know we also met before that through a podcasting workshop. So I feel like we're going way back and we're really teaming up here. So I would say let's dive in right into where we left off in the focus group, which is happiness, your expertise, and tell us a little bit about your background and what you do and why this subject is so important.
Absolutely. I think this time is such a perfect time for HR professionals, for encouragers. I'm an encourager at heart. And right now, I'm just kind of leveraging my background with retail, hospitality, and the time that I've had through working through big corporate brands and small regional brands and even one-off mom and pops, just to help everybody understand how to connect best with their employees in a time where there's a lot of chaos happening, right? And we want to create that safe space, that positive space for our teams to really flourish and thrive. And from the perspective of HR, I also like to really come alongside whoever that owner or that CEO or that leader, that business unit leader is, to give them encouragement, because I think that's something that's often forgotten. Is we think about the team, and the team is absolutely most important, right? Because they're frontline, they're talking with the guests, but it's also the leaders. They need a little bit of a boost, and sometimes they don't have the best of days and they need some encouragement and a reminder. So that's really my forte. 20 plus years from coast to coast working with folks. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to kind of share some of these little tidbits. And like you said, really, really talk about the encouragement and the happiness aspect, because there's so much negativity out there. And it's really, really important to remember that we're here to encourage as an HR professional and to be that sounding board for all levels of the organization. And it really will help everyone have their best version of their self at work with a person in that position that kind of looks at it through that lens.
Yeah, I like what you just said when you said pulling everything together. That makes it wholesome, because you can help the people, but then if you forget the, in between the managers and then the higher leaders and then the owners, the executives, if you forget that, it won't work. It's really like a pulling together. And I think HR is like the glue. It creates a stage where everyone, if the leaders let the HR people be that, and if the people acknowledge that HR are actually on their side, I think HR can really create like a stage where everyone can meet. And then I like how you said encouragement. So how does encouragement feel for you? Like, what is it with encouragement? Because you light up when you say that word.
I know it is. And for me, and it could very well be the space that I've found myself building my career. So retail and hospitality and restaurants, it's very much hands-on, right? It's the type of industry. What I found is you have to be with your team. So often I think there's folks that they get behind their desk and they push the paper and they process, employee files or whatever it might be, or do an investigation, and they don't understand like what the day-to-day actually looks like, so that they can have that real, and we're talking real, right?
Like, yeah, or like
real
real,
perspective,
yes.
like what the teams go through. And that's always been something that encourager in me has been really good at, and just kind of thrives, understanding what the team is going through. So that means being on the floor with them. That means a few times a week or so, kind of engaging with them, understanding what it's like, what do they go through, what does their day-to-day look like, so you can really hear the pain points. Because I think that's to your point, like the glue that HR is, that kind of brings everybody together. If you don't see it firsthand, as best you can, because I know there's some folks that maybe are working remotely, and so that's a little bit tough, but to see it firsthand and really genuinely listen to what the team has to say, it's gold. And it will really help you move your organization forward and remove some of those obstacles. Not all, right? There's going to be some things that they're still going to be a little challenging, but really remove those obstacles and understand how to make it better for everybody else. And it really builds trust. So encouragement and trust are the two biggest things, and you have to earn the trust. I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's your title, they should just trust you and respect you just because, but that's not really true. I mean, think about it. In the landscape of my industry with retail and hospitality, you have people who are trying to feed their families on, a lower hourly wage, even as much as it's increased across the country with the minimum wage, et cetera. It's still, sometimes they have to have multiple jobs in order to do their job. So I try to bring that, my heart and that encouragement piece, into that picture when I'm thinking about what they're going through. So if there's an employee that's having an issue.
It's so much heart that you're putting into this. And I like how you said pain points. And, it's like a lot of people, when it's like pain point, they kind of cringe and it's negative and whatnot. However, like you mentioned, there is gold in there. So if we can say, hey, what is your pain point, and earn that trust so they can actually share that with you when you're not scared of hearing the pain points, because there's nothing negative about it. There's so much information in it, and then turn that around, and then you actually will understand and know what your people need, what you can do for them, and what's even possible. Some things are possible, some things are not possible. So I like that, and I really, really want to highlight that pain points are nothing but positivity, because it's chock full of information. And if you're not scared of that, you can actually learn a lot. And that means when then you show up and you know all this stuff because you took the pain points in, you did, thought process, whatnot, and then you come to your people, that earns you trust right there. Because you know what you're talking about, and you, like you say, you go down to the floor with them. So I really, really like that.
Yeah, it's a lot about that psychological safety too, which is kind of, that philosophy or that foundation where you create a space where people can bring you their feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, and not feel that there's going to be retaliation, or, that there's that fear of something their manager's going to freak out on them. It's like creating that safe space. And feedback, like you said, whether it's called feedback or a pain point or whatnot, like it's so important in order to really get down to what are the trends, what are the themes, what are the things that, there could be some great things too, right? That by being with your team, you could discover something wonderful that a particular manager is doing that, wow, could impact a larger portion of the organization just by having those conversations. So, that's also a tactic that I think is really important, is having, that open space, whether it's like an HR office hour where you're like, hey, come see me, or you're down where they are and like doing little like chat sessions with cookies and, whatever in the afternoon, just so that you're like, come guys, I want to talk to you. Like, what's
make
going
it
on
comfortable, make it comfortable. And go with what the people need, kind of. And I was just thinking when we were talking about pain points, why are people scared of pain points, or why do they think it's maybe negative? And it's really because we attach emotion to it. to not take anything personal. When somebody is unhappy in your company, when you take it personal, then you don't really want to look at it, or it scares you, or it initiates feelings in you too. And then you're bringing your feelings to the table too. And there will not be a really good resolution. However, when you say, you know what, I'm going to sit down with that person or have a Zoom call, whatnot, and I'm going to leave my emotions out. So it's like a neutral space, because it's all about that person.
Yes.
What are your pain points, and leave your emotions out. Don't feel attacked. Don't take it personal. It's because what they're feeling has nothing to do with you. It's their feeling. And then suddenly pain points are actually really amazing. I want to know all of them. And the other thing is like, it's then okay for somebody to share these pain points, because you're not taking it personal, and you will find a solution for it too, because it has nothing to do with you. Right. It's like a really nice, it creates a comfortable and safe, like you say, place for people to actually share that with, HR leaders or anything to. I think a lot of times we just take it so personal, right? And we feel then attacked or whatnot, right?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's the role of HR, at least in my opinion.
Yes. Tell me.
to really be like a coach as well. You're in that corner of whether it's the executive or the manager or, whatever level of leader, to let them know, because they're working hard too. I think that's the thing, like we talked about just a little bit ago, that everybody's putting their best effort. And sometimes it does feel personal if the manager is newer, or maybe they've done things the same way forever and they've always gotten the same results, but for whatever reason in this season, that approach is not working right now. So to kind of be that intermediary, to kind of sit everyone down at the table and give that space, that open heart, and just that true listening to bring everyone together, like that's something that I take really seriously, and I think is really important, just to get the best out of each person. Yeah,
and also to give that to yourself though too, like to give it to other people, encouragement, right? But also to yourself, and let yourself off the hook a little bit too as HR, because it's a big job. It's a really big job. And to just know every day you show up, you give your best, and tomorrow you can do that again. Maybe even a little bit better, maybe, maybe a little bit different, maybe just a little less or whatnot, to just kind of like be kind to yourself too. So how do you think encouragement is best given as an HR professional, in the workspace? Because encouragement you give different to children, to your spouse, to yourself, to your pets. However, for HR, how would you define that? How would you describe that?
No, it's a great question. I think you have to understand this, the kind of space that you're in. So what is the vibe of your environment? If you're, depending upon where you're at, what are you able to do? There might be some safety, restraints or something if you're in a factory setting versus, a restaurant where you can just walk around and talk to the team. But I think it's really setting something that the team feels valued, bringing that value and recognizing the hard work that they're doing. And whether that's working with the managers to create some sort of, reward system, or, some sort of recognition board. Like I've done lots of different things where it's like the team will write notes to each other, like, oh, this person is such, and it's having that up and for everybody to see. It's like, oh, I see my name. Because think about that, like your name, you come to work, it's who you are, you give your best. I'm Jen, you're Jacqueline. And that recognition feels so good, so seen and so heard, So I think sometimes it's just simple things like that. Other times it's recognizing that there is more inside the person. So a great way is also making sure that employee reviews are being done, right? Like that's a great time to sit down and have that conversation. And if you're in a situation where your organization's only doing that once a year, that's doing yourself and the employee a disservice. Those conversations should be ongoing, whether it's, every 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or quarterly, or whatever you have time to do based on, we get it. HR has a lot on their shoulders with the employee, with managers and whatnot. But, you know, making sure that that conversation, you know, one thing I tell my managers is if you're sitting down with a team member or a, you know, subordinate, direct report, et cetera, and you're telling them something and their reaction is shock and dismay, like it's the first time they've heard any of this, that's on you, because this shouldn't be something that they just heard for the first time. This should be something that's like, oh, you're right, Jim. Yeah. We've talked about this, you know, and crud, like I just couldn't get it together, or whatever it might be. Or thank you, like, for recognizing that. I know I've tried to do better, or whatever it might be, you know? And I think that's also in a more formal way of bringing encouragement. It's like, hey, like, I'm here for you. I really want to invest in you. I see more in you. Yes, you're an hourly, you know, crew member right now, but we have this leadership development program, and I really see you, like, within the next 6 months, like, let's put a plan together and really see where you can move forward, because you are excellent in X, Y, and Z area. You know, so that's
I like that. I like that what you just said, like, because a lot of times we're thinking just like right now or tomorrow. But what I like what you just mentioned is let's put a plan together. Because don't you think, I mean, I think so, that if in a company people actually are working towards something, be it 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, you know, year maybe a little bit long, right? Because we all kind of like, you know, 6 months maybe, but to have a plan in place. So think about the change in a company if every employee, even the leadership, would say, you know, let's make a plan, put a plan together meeting, and then say, what would you like? And let's put a plan together in, you know, creating that, and, you know, in the next 2, 3, 6 months or whatnot. I think people would actually, that would be happy, and they would have a goal, they would have a reason beyond just, you know, beyond pay, which is super important. Being valued is super important, being understood is super important. But then there is this, it's almost like a rooftop of, you know, like, that's why another goal, a really big goal of why I do that. And for somebody that might be a course, right? For somebody it might be a promotion. Why not be open about it? I want to have a promotion. Well, let's put a plan together. We see you in that. And to be out front with it, you know, or, you know, this may be a little too fast, but you know what, if you do this training, we see this for you, right? And
absolutely.
You just really touch based on something. And I think that making a plan for somebody and telling them, let's sit together and let's come up with a plan for that. That is powerful.
It is. It's so powerful, because it becomes something that they get to own too.
Yes.
You know, it's not just like, well, here are the 3 goals that everybody on the team is working towards, but it's something that's personalized. And I think especially with where we find ourselves with the different, you know, generations of workers that are in our workforce now, oftentimes those that are with us, they want that personalization. They want to know that it's something that's specific to them. The other thing that I think is really, really important, and this is kind of another, you know, HR trick and tool, if you will, is really when the team is being onboarded, making sure when you're hiring and bringing people on and getting them trained, that they understand the bigger picture of what they're there for. They're not just a cog. Like, what is it? The mission, the vision, the values of the organization, like explaining that in a way that it's not just reading from a PowerPoint slide as you're standing in a conference room, but like genuinely having a conversation about who is this person on our team as it relates to that mission. You know, as an organization that I was with recently has a mission to be, you know, the most caring company in the world. That seems so large, right? Like, but that's amazing. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something you're reaching for the stars, and you're like, wow, I get to be a part of something so big. So then having those deeper conversations of, okay, so what does it look like on the day-to-day? You know, how does that translate into running a fast food restaurant? You know, what does that look like? You're serving guests. It's quick. they're buying a $10 meal, but like the world's most caring company. How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you
So
do that?
having those conversations with everybody from age, 15, 16 for a summer job up through managers who, this has been their career. It's going to look a little bit different, but you need to bring all those perspectives to the table so that ultimately that mission and vision and all of that is like coming to fruition, and it brings it to life in the day-to-day of the team.
I love that. And just thinking about, if you have a company, it doesn't matter how big it is. If you have a company and everyone gets to say, like, kind of like, what is their vision for the company? What do you see, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you pull that all together, that really makes a wholesome company.
Yeah.
It makes a creative company. It makes a very, very diverse company, and rich. I feel like rich. It's not just one vision, it's like so many people's visions in there, and then they get to see, maybe even make a vision board, and everyone gets to put their vision. So that is, so it kind of makes them part of the company beyond the pay, beyond the job. And I think also, what I like is when you say the vision of the company, when a company really sits down and really thinks about that, and just the leadership, that's fine. Owners, leadership, just sit down and do that. What is your vision? Because so many companies don't have a vision, and they're pulled in all these directions, and everyone is throwing each other under the bus behind their back and talking just to stand there better or not to fess up or whatnot. But I tell you what, when you have a vision, when you really have you have a journey, just like a human being, you have a journey, you have a vision, you have goals, you have dreams, and then you build that, and then you let the people speak too. I mean, I cannot imagine that that's an unhappy place to work at or a place that you want to leave, what I'm saying? Unless you have a better opportunity that's more fitting, because we're always ever changing, and companies are ever changing too. So you have to keep talking about it. But think about if the first step of every company, they would just drop everything for just 5 seconds, have a meeting, what's the vision, create that, then let the people speak too, create a big vision board, and know that that's the journey, and it's in a life journey. It changes left and right. We're going to keep up with it, and new people are coming in. What's your vision for the company? What would you like this to be? Who would you like to be in the company? I think that's like, wow, that's like an alive and like a pump.
There's so much energy.
I know, right?
There's so much energy. And I love that you and I have that connection where like that energy is what drives us. And we can feel it, and we can pick up on it. And, it's kind of like a superpower, Jacqueline, right?
Well, it is. But I mean, everything is energy. That's the thing. You can try to change when there's an issue, a problem. You can try to change it on a physical life level, or you can just, align with what's really going on. And a lot of times it changes and it shifts itself, right? Whereas in the physical life level, you try, I did this, I did that, I run and run and run, I'm so exhausted, and it's still not changing. Yet energetically, if you say, you know what, give me a minute, and then you align and everything, and you get yourself into a good frequency and a good energy, it's a lot of times the issue is not even there anymore, because when you change, the outside world changes too. And that's so interesting. Powerful. It's powerful.
It is powerful. And it's interesting too. One of the other kind of little nuggets is, think about when a manager, this is another coaching, walks into a room or a meeting, whether it's a great conversation or a bad or a feedback conversation, think about them as like a thermometer, like testing the temperature of the room.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Because
testing the temperature.
As the leader, it's your responsibility, right, to kind of enter that space, and you don't want to send it just if it's already a little bit hostile. You don't want to send it even more in that direction, right? So that's kind of another coaching of look at people's body language, look at the tone of voice, like what does that tell you, assessing the situation before you even open your mouth to speak on whatever the topic is. Just kind of being present in that space, taking it in, figuring out what that looks like, and that's all happens in a quick amount of time, right? I'm not saying stand
Oh
there
yeah. No,
for
no,
5 seconds,
it's,
you know, but
it asks for
yeah.
you to be aligned with who you really are, and it asks for you to do whatever it takes for yourself. So when you show up at work, you are the best ever you that you can be. And then it's very simple to tune into it. And also when you bring a great energy into the company, it's just like you change everything. You shift everything.
Absolutely.
A smile, a laugh, a thank you. You know, it changes everything how you show up. And with that, you change your company, you know. But I also think that what I'm hearing a lot in the focus groups and also like in the podcast episodes is from HR, that a lot of times HR are kind of like, because they don't have, the best aftertaste ever, they're kind of like also a little bit put to the side. And I think that a more dynamic and modern way to look at HR is actually that they're able to create a stage where everyone can meet, meaning that they need to become partners to the upper level, and get the freedom to deal and to take care of the people too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The partnership is crucial. I don't think it's life, right? When you partner in anything, you're going to have more success than in a silo, or if you're being combative, or if someone doesn't see you aligned, which is why, I think it's really important to go in to every conversation, listen to what that manager has to say. If you're about to go into, say, an investigation situation or a coaching moment, okay, tell me your side, tell me why you feel X, Y, and Z has happened, or, what is that? And then when you're in there, you're listening to the other person and you're able to support what your partner is saying, but also the professional neutral part of HR is still able to show up to bring in whatever that other person is saying to help bridge that perspective and help them kind of listen to each other. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's an unsafe situation, or if it's something cut and dry, some sort of violation of company policy that's like pretty black and white, like, that those conversations are different. But for the most part, I think having that partnership, doing one-on-ones are so important, over coffee, over lunch, just having that time each week to connect with the managers on your team, or, like in my case, being kind of that partner to the CEO, is really important to kind of hear their mindset, being that sounding board for them. Oftentimes I would sit down with my partner, and I would say, okay, tell me what you're thinking, tell me what you want to say, tell me how you think you want to approach this. So letting them kind of like practice and get it out, so you can coach in the moment of, okay, no, that's amazing, but I would approach it this way. Maybe you could shift this a little bit, or that a little bit, and if you have that trust and you have that respect and that partnership, then giving them that feedback, they're grateful for it, because it's going to make them better and a stronger leader, and be received more when they come into that space and they need to, share whatever messages that they're sharing.
Yeah, and what you just said is like, it makes it better, make them better. And I think that is extremely important to highlight. Even when problems are rising, problems are there, that when you face them, and when you kind of like with a good attitude face them, and with trust and everything, and kindness and encouragement, it makes everything better. Because what comes out of this issue, the learning, the expansion of the people, of the company and everything. And I think that is extremely important. Everything always makes everything better if you can actually come to it with a good attitude. If you can come to it with trust, encouragement, and just, not bitterment, and maybe not take everything so personal, but the making it better, it's always an expansion. Every problem is always an expansion, every issue, but every smile and every happiness is an expansion too. Every meeting you have with a person is an expansion, personally, for the company, for the person you're talking and that it's about, and for leadership. And I like that you said that, making it better, to and maybe focus on that,
Yeah, it's also looking at it from the perspective of failing forward.
Yes.
To your point, like, you're not, yes, mistakes can happen.
Yeah.
But what did you learn from it? What did you take
Exactly.
away? What can you apply then next time? And sometimes, you know, those are the ways that, you know, with employee handbooks, for example, you know, those are sometimes how policies and processes and things are improved, is simply because, oh crud, like we didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And then that happened. Wow, I never thought that X, Y, and Z would happen in an organization, but it did. Okay, now we really should think about how has that policy been written? How do we hold people accountable? You know, whatever that might be. And so failing forward, you're going to learn something. It's going to be bumpy. You're going to have some band-aids and some scrapes here and there, but it's going to
And
make
that's
you,
okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah, it's going to
okay.
make you better, me better,
Yeah.
and the organization overall. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would say just uplift your HR people a little bit more, you know, and a little more
Yes.
and a little more. Put them
Yeah.
a little bit higher and trust them a little more and support HR, because it's like before I started the Corporate Happiness Show, you know, I mean, it's like I did not really speak with HR experts that much. And speaking with so many HR experts, it's like, oh my. I mean, they have the capability of carrying the whole ship and making everything better. It's like they are the glue, they are everything, infusing HR people with power and trust and encouragement. And
Yep.
also, like, you know, uplift and everything, I think is just, it's a superpower. It's a
It is.
superpower. And you know, in the focus group, actually, I just remember in the focus group, someone said, yeah, as HR people, sometimes, you know, I do all these good things for everyone. And I mean, I love my job. I love doing it. But once in a while, somebody actually doing this for HR would be amazing too. So let's just toss that right in there too.
Yeah.
Not just uplift your HR people and be grateful for them, but also, like, you know, how are you actually treating your HR people to something special?
Yeah, I think you've totally touched upon something. The burnout is real,
Yes.
you know, and so how do you you know, recognize that within the organization, and how does the HR person come to that and come to their manager, whatever level that might be, so they
Yeah.
can recognize it? Because to your point earlier in the show, you know, we talked about that the HR person can wear that burden on their shoulders, because we're the collector of all the things, right? Everyone's like pushing all the feelings and all of the issues and everything toward us, and we have to come, like we said, kind of collect and hold it all together, filter out all of the things, and then figure out, all right, how are we going to move forward? That's a lot emotionally.
That's a lot.
I know, as someone that wears my heart right here and has a lot of encouragement for others, like, you know, there have been seasons of my HR career that I felt really like
It's
heavy,
a lot.
you know, depending upon the things that you're walking through with your team. It can feel a lot. So, you know, some strategies that I've used is just, you know, to have that one-on-one with my manager, whoever that might be, just to say, okay, like, I'm feeling a little bit, you know, bogged down in this, and to kind of like bring it back to, like you said earlier, like the purpose, you know, the purpose of why are we here? Okay, I have a superpower, HR is a superpower, but ultimately I'm not the one that's going to, you know, be able to fix everything. You can't fix everything.
No.
Reminding
And that's
yourself
okay.
about
That's
that
okay.
is so important.
Yeah, and that's okay. And just like, the question is for the listeners, how are you supporting your HR team, and how are you making them feel special and uplifting them? Because that's, I think it is very important. Very important.
It's so important. It's, you know, I think giving them a voice, giving them that voice that where they can come to you and say, okay, you know, here's how I'm feeling. And you can say, you know what, you're amazing. Like, it's great. You know, just hang in there with me. I think just recognizing their efforts, giving them a seat at the table. I think that, to your point earlier, that's huge. You know, I've been, in a few different organizations in my career, and it's definitely ebbed and flowed with the level of influence that the HR team has been given. But, you know, I think you got to push forward. You got to continue to show up. You got to not be afraid. I think with the HR, you know, realm, you need to be able to raise your hand and say, nope.
Hey.
You need to feel strong in your training and in who you are for the team and the organization and yourself to be able to raise your hand when you don't agree with something.
Yeah, and trust yourself too when you don't agree, because don't try to question, no, trust yourself. And that was another thing in an earlier podcast episode that's already live. They did say that claim that seat. Don't wait until somebody gives you a seat. Go claim that seat, but make sure you're prepared. Why would you even want a seat? What can you bring to the table? Make a plan, and then very, very clear, and very confidently go and claim that seat. And the good news is that once you're sitting there, everyone, it's going to be, you're going to make the company a better place. It's like to really have that voice and be loud about it. Yeah,
I love it. And I think one thing that we might have talked about in the focus group too is just that like active listening piece. That is such a skill, and I think it's such an important piece of why HR is important, because they're actively listening. They're there. They're kind of, people might think they're in the background, but they're hearing everything from all angles, so that when you do find yourself at that seat at the table, the amount of authority and resonance that you have, like you're there and you have all of this information to share that otherwise some different levels might not hear. You might be able to share something that someone brought to you that otherwise they wouldn't feel comfortable coming to their manager, but because they had to stop by your office, your desk or whatever to grab a direct deposit form, and you said, hey, like, are you doing okay? How are you? And you genuinely took a minute to ask them how they were, and they shared what's going on in their life. Light bulbs can go off. Right.
Absolutely.
And that's that gold that I was talking about earlier, where it's like that information is so crucial to the health of an organization, because at the end of the day, whether you're making a cog or a burrito or a chicken sandwich or whatever it might be, there are human beings that are at every single step of the way. And we need to remember that. We don't employ robots, maybe some organizations do, but like these are humans, and we need to understand kind of where they're at in their journey, so that we can all kind of make that space a better, healthier, more positive and encouraging environment overall for everyone.
I love it. So we could keep talking forever. However, we kind of came to the end of the time and whatnot. So I really appreciate that we connected through so many venues, and that actually we sat together a couple times and talked about this, because I feel like it made the conversation even more rich. So thank you so much for being on the show. And where can people connect with you? Where can people find you?
Oh, such a pleasure. Corporate Happiness Show is incredible. You're incredible.
Thank you.
So Jennifer Granillo is my name, and I'm working on the podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, if anyone's listening to this and they want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that would be wonderful. I'll be keeping everyone up to date on my plans for my podcast rollout. It's definitely going to be in the encouragement vein. So
okay, I'm excited. Yeah, we can use
Jacqueline, thank you so much.
Can you spell your last name for us real quick?
Yeah, it's Gran as in Nancy, ILLO. So
Excellent.
Jennifer Granillo.
Excellent. Yes. Listen, go hang out with Jennifer. Only good stuff can come out of this. And then I'm excited for your podcast, of course.
Thank you.
Listeners, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us. I hope you got some inspirational information from this conversation. You can find me at FreakyHealer.com. I work with conscious leaders, conscious individuals, and conscious businesses. So you can also email me at info@freakyhealer.com, and we'll come up with something good for you. So thanks so much, and until next time.